Hello, I'm Rabbi Katz, and I have a story to tell you. Once there was a man named Shmuel. He lived in a little village called a shtetl in a faraway country. Shmuel was a good man. He tried to do what was right. He prayed, he studied, he performed acts of kindness. There were certain things that Shmuel saw that he could not understand, that bothered him deeply. He saw a neighbor, Sarah, who was a good woman. She was kind. She gave tzedakah, charity, to the poor. She and her husband, well, they were not wealthy at all, but they performed good deeds every day. Their child, their only child, died at a very young age. Shmuel was bothered by this. How could such a wonderful person suffer such sadness? He saw other things like that, and he looked up one day to God and he said, God, Ribono Shel Olam, ruler of the universe, why do good people often suffer? And people who are not nice at all often seem to do so well. But no answer came from heaven. One day, Shmuel looked up again at heaven and said, God, you said that when Elijah the prophet would come, that Elijah would answer all questions that seem to be unanswerable. Cannot you send Elijah now? No answer came. But Shmuel was walking by the road one day, down towards the country, and a man approached from afar. And as he came to Shmuel, he paused, he stopped, and he said, Shmuel, I am Elijah the prophet. God has heard your prayers, and I have come to answer those questions that seem unanswerable. Shmuel was amazed, and he said, you're Elijah? And Elijah nodded his head. And then Elijah said, but I don't have much time. I perform good acts every day, and if you take up too much of my time, I will disappear. Shmuel said, well, then tell me this, Elijah. I have seen things in my life that I do not understand. I have seen good people who are in pain, and people who are not good at all, seeming to do very well. Can you tell me why this is? And Elijah said, come with me. And so the two of them walked off. They walked together for many, many miles until they came to a home, and they said, it is time to stop. Elijah said to Shmuel. Shmuel said, what is happening here? And Elijah said, tomorrow morning, in this house where these people, so kind, so righteous, tomorrow morning, in this place, in this field, their only cow, their livelihood, their only cow will die. And Shmuel said, why? Why is that? That's just what I am talking about. I see things like that. I do not understand. The next day, the cow died. Shmuel was upset. And Elijah said, come with me. And they walked, and they walked. They grew tired, or at least Shmuel did, and they finally came to a place, another village, and there was a big house, obviously owned by a very wealthy man. They knocked on the door. The man looked at them in their clothes that were so modest, and he said, well, come in. You'll sleep with the servants. And he didn't feed them very well at all. No, not well at all. And they slept with the servants. And the next day, They departed that house. They walked out the front door, and there was a tree that had blown over during the night. But as they walked by that tree, magically, the tree stood upright. Shmuel looked at Elijah. If you did that, you have to tell me why. That man was not nice to us. He was the host. We were to be his guests. And he did not treat us very well at all. He gave us almost nothing to eat and made us sleep with the servants. Why did that tree stand upright? And Elijah said, it is not for you to ask, not for you at all. And they finally came. They finally came to another village. And they looked around, and Shmuel once again saw things that he could not understand. And he said finally to Elijah, can you not tell me the answer to these questions? Elijah looked at him, and Elijah said, that cow that died, well, let me tell you this. It was ordained that the woman would die, that righteous woman would die that day, but I interceded. The cow died instead. And Shmuel said, well, what of the man who was not nice to us at all and made us sleep with the servants, and the tree stood upright? And Elijah said, under that tree was a treasure. A treasure. That man who was so wealthy and not very nice, had he found it, he would have spent it all on himself. But it will come to pass that there will be a poor but very righteous man. Money has nothing to do with it. Whether poor or rich, he is righteous, and he will find that treasure under that tree, and he will give it to charity, much of it, and he will prosper, and he will perform good deeds. Elijah said to Shmuel, listen, you will never see the full picture like God. You will never see the full picture. Perform good deeds. Pray and study, but ask not why things turn out the way they do. You leave that for the heavens. Shmuel protested. But Sarah, what justification, what reason, what purpose could there be for her only child to die? And then Shmuel looked at Elijah and understood that all we can do in life is the right thing. Every day, all the time. And we will never know why things turn out the way they do. Shmuel understood. He looked to the ground and he thought of all the things that he had seen in life. And when he looked up, Elijah had disappeared. Shmuel went home to his family, and he led a good life. He performed acts of kindness. He did just as Elijah said. He did everything that he thought that he should. Acts of kindness, study, prayer. But when it came to looking at how things finally turned out, how finally things happened, he did not question anymore. He knew that he would never understand why the world turned out the way that it did from day to day. And because of that, because of the life he led, and because of the questions he asked, and the questions he decided not to ask, he lived a life full of joy. His heart every day was full of joy. And that's the story of Elijah the prophet. See you next time.